So this is just.
Did you see what IKEA's like making all their mid-century stuff again, except bad.
So this interview with her, which we'll play first right before we interview Steffi. This interview is just going to get us up to speed. She's going to talk about she talks about a Beaux-Arts building, Craftsman, Art Deco, mid-century, and so we just get a nice scope of what's down there in Long Beach. We talk about her book. And so this is in preparation for next week. So with that, let's take it away with my interview with Louise. Louise, we're here with you. We're at the Berlin Cafe in Long Beach, which is one of my favorite places, second only to Portfolio. And I want you to, first of all, properly introduce yourself. Tell us about your book, and then we're just going to roll up our sleeves, jump in the deep end, and talk about architecture in Long Beach.
I'm a professor emeritus in the art department at California State University, Long Beach. I got my PhD in art history a long time ago at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque.
Will tell us your full name, please?
Louise Ivers.
There you go. All right, good. That's it. No. Good. Now we're all up to speed. Tell us, you've written a book, Long Beach, a history through its architecture.
Correct. I published this shortly after I retired, and it is available from the Historical Society of Long Beach at 4260 Atlantic Avenue in Long Beach, in Knowles.
Perfect. And just because this happened to me, and I think a lot of people, do you want to explain that there are two different historical societies and just clarify that before I send 300 people down this rabbit hole?
Okay. Actually, there's only one historical society. It is called, literally, the Historical Society of Long Beach. And as I said, it is at 4260 Atlantic Avenue in Bixby Knolls. Okay, they have a building there where people can go and do research. And they have published some books. And so they are the publisher of my book. And actually, I am on the board of the Historical Society. I'm also on the board of Long Beach Heritage, which is a preservation organization. And we are an advocacy group, and we attempt to save historic buildings and other structures. We do not sell books.
Okay, so just to cut to the chase, we're looking ahead. There are some crises in Long Beach, some preservation crises. I want to get to them, but I want to start at the beginning. We agreed we would start with turn of the century, some turn of the century structures. So what's going to happen is we're just going to go through some really quickly some important buildings by period, and then we'll get to some preservation crises. So let's take it away.
Well, one of the oldest buildings still standing in Long Beach, which is presently being restored, in fact, and it's going to receive an award from Long Beach Heritage at our annual dinner, which is going to be in February. This is the Masonic Temple, and it was designed by Henry Fletcher Starbuck, who was the first major architect to put out his shingle in Long Beach, and it is in a Romanesque revival style, more or less. It's got three distinguished gables in the front, which actually had Masonic symbols in them. There's only one left right in the middle right now, which is the square and compass. But looking at old photographs, you can see other designs there as well. And it has this large room, which is upstairs, where the Masons used to hold meetings and various other events. It's sort of an auditorium, and as I said, it's presently being restored to its former glory. And this is on Pine Avenue, and it is not too far away from, but north of, the First National Bank building, which is at the corner of Pine Avenue and First Street. It has a distinctive clock tower. This was designed by Tran and Williams, Los Angeles architects, who also had an office in Long Beach for a number of years. And the building was first constructed in 1903, and then several more stories were added in 1906. The 1903 version did have a small clock tower, which is in this book someplace. Anyway, and then in 1906, the larger one that's still there was constructed. And this now houses an excellent Italian restaurant called L'Opera, which most people call La Opera, but it's really pronounced L'Opera.
Perfect. And just as we're going through this, when people buy your book, you take, with the exception of old original photographs, you take all the photos in this book.
Yes, I do. I take all of my own photographs, and I actually still use black and white film and have a darkroom, and I make prints of these photographs too. But of course, I also have a large collection of historic postcards. The Historical Society has many postcards, but they also have photographs of old buildings, which researchers can access for a price.
Perfect. I think we've got a couple more photos before we get to the Jazz Age.
One more. Just one more. The American Hotel, which is also under restoration right now, and it was built in 1905. We don't know who the architect was, and it's another building that is brick like the Masonic Temple. It's got a few sort of Romanesque-looking details, but it's really in what's called the panel brick style that was popular in the late 19th century back east and continued on through the early 1900s here in California.
Perfect. Okay, so we have the courthouse crisis, which we have to get to, but we agreed we'd talk about the Art Deco. So we'll talk about the car dealership and the Lafayette very quickly. Okay.
Yes, all of these are in my book, and the title of it is Long Beach, A History Through Its Architecture. I don't know if I said this.
We're going to say it 3 more times. Don't worry, people. And we're going to put up the link on the website. Don't worry, people aren't going to forget this. So tell us about the car dealership.
The Hupmobile dealership, which was, Hancock Motors. Hupmobiles were really popular in the 1920s. Anyway, this was the first Art Deco building in Long Beach, and it dates from 1928, and it was designed by Schilling and Schilling, who were also local architects, and it still has these wonderful reliefs at the corner of the building. It's at Anaheim and Linden Avenue, and also over the front door there are some reliefs, and they designed probably the more famous Lafayette Hotel.
Oh, I think Brian Kaiser knows about the Lafayette Hotel.
The Lafayette Hotel dates from shortly afterwards, 1928 to 29, and the exterior of this building is in excellent condition, and it has lots of different types of Art Deco motifs and a large relief over the original entrance, which was inspired by Michelangelo's sculptures of night and day on the Medici tomb in Florence. How about that? So they were eclectic. They took motifs from every place.
Okay.
But one more thing about my book. It goes from the earliest days of Long Beach, meaning that I briefly mentioned the Native Americans and the Spanish colonial and Mexican periods, from which there are still a couple of buildings, the ranchos, which are pretty famous, and it goes all the way through 1949. But now I am working on another book on the mid-century modern buildings from the 1950s and 60s, and that's where the crisis lies.
Right. So I think we've given people up through 1949 there's a lot to see. People need to get down here, buy your book, get down here. You're a preservationist, so let's get. We've had our fill. We like the marble. We like everything. We've taken our photographs, but now we have to get to the work at hand of preserving buildings in danger. So what is, in your opinion, a huge preservation crisis in Long Beach?
Probably the major crisis is the county courthouse, which is facing imminent demolition. And 2 buildings were designed and constructed at the same time in the Civic Center. One was the public safety building, more familiarly known as the police station, It was designed by Francis Husel, a noted mid-century modern Long Beach architect, and also he was assisted by Edward Killingsworth, who was the most famous Long Beach mid-century modern architect. That building, which is owned by the city of Long Beach, has been beautifully restored. It has even got a new glass skin on it, and it's in great shape. Its counterpart, which was built at the same time, 1958 to 60, this was designed by Kenneth Wing and Francis Husel, and a DEIR, a preliminary environmental impact report, has been put out already by the city to demolish the building, and not even to put anything there to replace it, but to leave a gigantic hole in the ground, because the city seems to think that it's too much trouble and too costly to maintain the structure and keep it away from vandals. They do have one of their famous green fences around it. Anyway, it is the twin to the police station, and Long Beach Heritage and I, of course, spearheading the drive, believe that this could be adaptively reused as a mixed-use structure. The city has put out calls for developers to design new projects for the entire Civic Center. They're going to, tear down the City Hall and the library as well. This would leave a large plot of ground owned by the city, which is between Ocean Boulevard and Broadway, and Magnolia and Cedar. And so they have gotten 2 responses, and both of these responses from developers include having mixed-use projects in amidst the new civic buildings, which will be leased to the city, and then in 30 or 40 years, the city will get them back. After, of course, they're falling to pieces like the courthouse is right now. True, the courthouse is in terrible disrepair inside. And, however, it could be gutted and reused as lofts, as are many other structures in Long Beach. In fact, there's another preservation success story, which is the Edison building, which is over on Long Beach Boulevard, just a couple of blocks away. It was designed by Kenneth Wing, who was one of the designers of the courthouse, and it is being adaptively reused as lofts. And, of course, they will have restaurants down on the first floor, which they could easily do with the courthouse as well. It's a large building. So I have made a response for Long Beach Heritage about trying to save the building and adaptively reuse it. So stay tuned for the next episode.
Perfect. You did it. We're going to be back. You're great. We love talking to you. We're going to be back. We're going to come back and we'll do a walk around with you. So I want to thank you and remind people again about your book. We're going to put the link up on the webpage associated with this podcast so people can just click over to the page. So remind us again about your book.
Okay, the title is Long Beach, A History Through Its Architecture, and it is published by the Historical Society of Long Beach.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My name is Fred Voss. I'm at Portfolio Coffee on 4th Street in Long Beach, where I live. And you're listening to You Can't Eat the Sunshine.
Steffie, I'm here with you. We're at Urban Radish. We're in the Arts District. I would like you to properly introduce yourself so we can get to the topic at hand, which is Cosmic Los Angeles.
My name is Steffie Nelson. I'm a journalist in Los Angeles. I've lived here for about 9 years, covering the subjects of style and culture for various magazines and newspapers and websites. And I began to develop a concept that I felt was a theme running through Los Angeles, and I started to cover the subject, and now I am working on a book on the subject of Cosmic Los Angeles.
Perfect. Okay, take a breath. We're doing great. Okay, you're now going to explain to us this idea, which is very, very good, and I'm very excited to get into this. So